Today I'm talking with George Cartwright. We're going to find out about how George got involved with the New York Gong Tour of France and how that ended up leading to the formation of Curlew and the recording of the first Curlew album. Hi, George. How's it going?
Rick, I'm, holding my own. How you doing?
Pretty good. Um, Before we get into this whole New York Gong thing,
hmm
maybe you could give us a little background on kind of how you got into music and how you ended up in the New York area.
Well, I started playing piano as a kid, and I liked singing in church. And when I was a senior in college, my grandmother gave me $60, and I bought an alto saxophone from a pawn shop. No, it wasn't a pawn shop, just a uh, cheap clothes shop in downtown Starkville, off to the side. Took some lessons. Then I was a conscientious objector against the war in Vietnam for a couple of years. I played, and I thought, well, I like playing the saxophone. So I went to Memphis State for a while, then I went to Southern Mississippi for a while. I went to Jackson State a little bit one summer, and I've ended up at the Creative Music Studio
Yeah,
outside of Woodstock, New
yeah,
York.
that's in Woodstock, right?
Yep. And it was quite something. All these people, obviously, I didn't know. There weren't a lot of students there, but they had visiting artists that would come in for a week. And in the morning, you would do a class with Carl on rhythm, and a class with Ingrid Berger on singing.
Yeah, so Carl was one of the founders of the studio. But you say you ended up at Creative Music Studio. I mean, that's a big jump from Mississippi to Woodstock. How do you end up there?
Well, it was a highway. There was a road there. You could get to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, how do you find out about the Creative Music Studio
Well, I
in
saw an
Mississippi?
advertisement in Downbeat.
Okay.
That's right. That's a good question. Yeah, that was how I thought. These are the guys I really like. Anthony Braxton, um, Calabrucia, Oliver Lake, Dave Holland. I don't remember who was on the ad, but
Uh-huh.
sure Anthony was. I'm sure it mentioned Ornette Coleman. And I
Yeah.
thought, I just, you know, I think I'll go give that a whirl.
Right. Okay.
And I was married then to a woman is a French horn player named Susie Veglia, and we moved up together. She just moved to move, and I moved to be in the school, and she worked in the administration, and uh, yeah, I learned a lot about music, and eventually moved to New York, and then the marriage didn't work out.
So what year was this that you moved to Woodstock?
I went there twice in 1976 or seven, and then 1978 or nine. I don't really have the exact dates.
And both times were to work at the Creative Music Studio?
hmm
Okay. So you went for a while, then you were out for a while, and then you went back.
Yeah,
Okay. And so who are some of the people you met at Creative Music Studio?
Oliver Lake.
Oh,
Teachers would do in the afternoon. You do this morning practices in the afternoon. You would work with whoever was teaching at the time, and they'd bring in some music and you play it at the concert on Saturday. But then Friday nights they had a student concert, so people would put together groups and play their own music. It was like going to heaven, and
yeah.
everybody there was pretty good. The students and playing these people's Leo Smith's music, Don Cherry's music, Anthony Braxton's music. Um, yeah, so I met a lot of people there. Tom Cora, Donnie Davis, Mark Kramer. Um,
Mark Kramer plays a significant role in this story. And you remember how you met him at the Creative Music Studio?
Just casually. I don't remember. It was no like, oh, you were meeting people all the time, and no, I don't recall how we met.
So all these people you're meeting at Creative Music Studio, you're also playing with?
Yeah, playing with a lot of them, and we all had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together in the lunchroom, the cafeteria, whatever. And so you would sit around and just talk with people, where'd you come from, what do you do, blah, 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 blah. Eugene Chapman was there.
Right. So how do you go from there to New York?
Well, I wanted to move to New York City. I was really thinking about it. And I asked Oliver Lake, I said, man, I like to move to New York City. And I said, but there's so many saxophone players. And he said, George, there's always room for one more.
Sure.
So did that, got there, and it was just the music scene that I was involved in, several scenes, they were just on fire. Improvisers, people putting bands together, which really felt like you could do it. Rents, you could get a decent rent somewhere. And just had a job as a courier, and it just all seemed to happen pretty natural. Right after I got there, Mark Kramer asked me to audition for Gong at the Zoo Place. And I went over and played with David Allen, who seemed like a perfectly nice guy, and Bill Lawell. And I thought, man, that guy can play bass.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. I like playing with him.
So when you say you auditioning for Gong, do you know, was this auditioning for the French tour, or was this just a general audition?
For the French tour.
It was for the French tour. So they had already done their North American tour then at this point.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so this must be like summer of '79, something like that.
Fall of '79.
Okay. Fall. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And so how much time between your audition and going to France?
Oh, gee, a month or two.
A month? Did you say?
It wasn't long. It happened fairly quick.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah, happened fairly quickly. We did some rehearsals, now that I remember.
And these rehearsals were often they were taking place at Giorgio Gomelski's place. Do you remember if you met him?
He may have come by, say hi, but I don't recall. Actually, these rehearsals took place on 14th Street at First Avenue, upstairs in some building that people had a space to rehearse in. I think somehow David had a friend with this guy who was from Zimbabwe.
Oh,
He was Zimbabwe at the time, and he had left and was in New York, and he had this place to rehearse. I remember the guy, and he didn't rehearse at two places, I think.
so who were the people that were going to be playing in New York Gong on the French tour? Who and did you guys all fly over together?
Yeah, flew over together.
So do you remember who played what?
Yeah, Bill Laswell played bass. Fred Coltrane played guitar. Fred Marr played drums. I played saxophones, and David Allen played guitar and sang. The more you think about it, I think it was a really, really, really good band.
Yeah.
And I don't know if recordings exist or not.
Let me see if I can share the screen here with you and show you the itinerary in France.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can. Oh, it started out in Bordeaux. Oh, 29th of September. Yeah, that was it happened pretty quick. Yeah. I remember we flew over, we got into a van, and it had wooden bench seats. And I thought, oh man, I don't know. I hope this is not anything we're going to travel in. but I didn't ask. I just decided, I committed to it, and I thought, well, I'll just see what happens. Then we got a really nice large van that was driven by a very nice French guy, and we were comfortable when we traveled.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that a non musician was also on this trip, Martin Beasy, as a
Using this,
technical person.
maybe Martin did the driving.
What was that?
Maybe Martin did the driving.
Martin?
I don't remember. I don't.
Well, the other skill that Martin brought along was that he was fluent in French. So I'm sure that helped out.
It was a big help.
Yes. So what was traveling around with these guys like, and where were you guys staying?
Well, sometimes traveling with them was great. You know, you get in a van, you have to drive for 6 hours. It can only be so good.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit, don't talk, whatever. We had Walkmans, you listen to music. And we would stay in different places. We stayed in a place in Amsterdam, which was where someone put it, that's where circus people and musicians stay. And later I was in the same hotel with David Thomas and the Wooden Birds, and Alex Chilton was staying there. And
Oh,
I guess,
this must be a different tour though, because
yeah, it's different tour, but the hotel was the whole thing because
yeah.
Reverend Fred Lane CD Doug Garrison who gave it to Alex, who really liked it. Anyway, yes, we'd stay there. Sometimes we'd stay in hotels. Sometimes we stayed in nice hotels, and just whatever the promoter would provide us with.
Sure. And with David Allen, I mean, France's David Allen's had been his home for a long time, so I imagine you're meeting some of David Allen's friends and maybe staying with some people that
people out there. I woke up one morning and we were in the middle of a vineyard.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, Martin talked about staying at like a farmhouse type place where you guys actually did some recording. Do you remember that?
We stayed at a place that was really small, and for some reason I missed the recording. I decided to go out for a long walk.
Oh.
When I got back, they were done.
Okay. So what was your relationship like with Bill Lawell? I mean, did you know Bill Lawell much before this tour?
Oh, no, not at all. Well, it was fun. I mean, I liked him a lot. He was funny, and I liked how he played. And you know, it's just for us, it was guys hanging out in the dressing room and all the time, and it's just yeah, it's just kind of what hanging out like music guys do.
Right.
It was fun.
So you're
pretty young. He was a little hard to talk to, but Cliff Coltrane was great.
Yeah.
And, you know, he got more friendly. Nobody has to be friendly to me, you know. It all just comes naturally.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be with these people, may as well, you know, have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about the age difference. I mean, you might have been the oldest person on the tour.
Well, I don't know. Maybe David was the oldest.
Oh, right, David, right. But for you were like 20 in your late 20s, 26, 27?
Yeah, probably 28.
28. And Bill was what, 24? Probably right.
Something like that. They did not look like old people to me.
And then Fred Marr, he must have been like 18 or something.
Yeah, he seemed pretty young. I didn't think about that very much.
Yeah. Yeah. So during the course of this tour, you guys are playing together every night. Does it get more? Does the band get more tight? More? Is it more fun playing together? Or How does
Yeah.
how does that go from the start of the tour to the end of the tour?
Well, it just every night it gets incrementally better. I
Yeah,
don't know how that happens. It's like some little piece of uh, little skein of whatever suddenly goes away, and you just naturally feel a little more into the music. You know, it's like hanging out with people too. The same thing. You just get a little closer. You know a little bit more about it. And
right.
I thought the music was really, really great.
So one of the larger gigs, I assume, was towards the end of the tour here in Paris, France, at it says here the Bataclan, which
Yeah,
now of course people people know about that place worldwide because of infamous event that happened there. But anyway, back in '79 here at Bataclan, what was that crowd like in Paris?
well, it's a lot, must have been 1,000 people, and they liked us,
Yeah,
and we had a good time. Good to play for it at that time for me, but I thought just do the same thing I do to 20 people or 1,000.
right.
That's what you do. It does get you jacked up a little bit more, and they love David.
Yeah.
I didn't know all this. I didn't know all this about that David was. I knew nothing about David Allen. I knew a
What,
little soft
what was,
machine
well,
wrong.
you got to know him on the tour a little bit. What was he like to work with?
He was fine, very easy. Can we try this? Sure. Just about this or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I didn't know he was such a big deal. And I mean, Mark Kramer told me about it.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know. I was not a David. I wasn't a real prog rock fan.
Sure.
Um,
You had never heard Gong music before this?
no, I might have heard Soft Machine. I mean, their names. I used to subscribe to a magazine called and it's like early 1970s, and it would talk about people in the music scene back when you could cover a lot with. But now it's so many things going on with so many people on the planet. Um, and I would register Soft Machine, and I'd read the William Burroughs book Soft Machine, which is it's a must read for everybody. You need to read it 2 or 3 times.
Right. Right. And of course, David Allen was one of the founding members of Soft Machine. Were you aware of that?
Vaguely, yeah. I think Mark probably told me.
Right.
Listen, I'm thinking, man, you know, I won the prize hog.
Right.
When you think about it, I don't know these guys. David Allen. Oh, okay, just gone. Okay, great. For me, the thing was I went and I liked his music, and I got to play sometimes on the saxophone at the key at the key of C, but it's the alto saxophone at the key of A, and nobody never play in that key for the alto. That was kind
Uh,
of
yeah. So, at what point do you and Bill start talking about forming a band together?
well late in the tour. I said, Bill, when we get back to, I said, I kind of like to put the band together. Would you be interested in playing bass? He said, yes. I said, okay. So we got back and he called me or I called him and where did we do these things? Isn't that funny? I don't remember where we rehearsed. And I asked Tom Core to be in it, Bill Bacon, and Bill brought along Nippy Scopolitas. Nikki Scopolitas.
So there's a picture of the band.
Tom, Bill,
Who's on the left there?
well, Tom Cora, then Bill Bacon, Bill Laswell, Bill Bacon, Nikki, and me.
Right.
Yep. It was taken out at where Martin Beasley's studio was in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And this is an empty part of the building there. It was taken by a very good friend named Sarah Wells. She was the photographer.
And was this during the recording of the first album, you think?
It would have to be. I think we were out there rehearsing and we needed a picture for something. I don't know.
So you guys are you're going to record this first album. Do you do many live gigs before you? Well, part of that album is actually recorded at CBGB, so you guys have obviously been playing some live. How much live gigging did you do before you started recording?
I don't think very much.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we must have rehearsed, but maybe we didn't. Maybe we just went up and the timeline I don't recall. Went up to the Creative Music Studio and did the recording over 2 days there, and then Tom and I went back and mixed it with Michael and Martin. Martin recorded some of it, and the guy there. Oh, there's the cover. Yeah, that's the first cover.
Yeah, and we got some of the recording credits here on the back of the album. See if I can make that a little more readable. Can you see that?
Look at this band. This is a killing band.
Yeah.
That I put together. I mean, Bill, Tom Cora, Bill Bacon, Nikki. That's a killer band, man. Yeah. Some from CBGB's. What happened was Bill knew a guy in Philadelphia who had a label called Red Records.
Right.
So it was. And he was going to release this. We sent him a cassette and he didn't put it out for some reason.
Right, but we could see that there was some test pressing made, and we're talking like about 1981 here. When you guys must have recorded this in like 80, kind of 80, 81-ish.
Yes, yeah. More like 80, 81, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we played some gigs, and then everybody liked it, and then I decided to try and take us up here and record.
So what happened with Red?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So
I had met another guy at the Creative Music Studio who had a radio program. Was from Atlanta, had a radio program, and I thought, well, I'll just send him a cassette, and he played it for a guy at Landslide who really liked it and agreed to release this.
I see. But now we're talking 1984, so that's quite a gap between recording and releasing.
I guess, it takes time. Somebody's going to put it out.
Yeah.
He was starting a new record label, putting it together, and it just takes time to get all this stuff. It takes at least 6 months to work it out. And oh yeah, the guy who can you put that back up?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, there was a guy named Chris Breck. We used his equipment to record.
Up in Woodstock?
Yeah, he had somehow gotten into the Creative Music Studio and was recording things, concerts or what have you, and he let us use his equipment to do the recording. We were in the recording studio was in a small dining room off the bar, and we recorded in the bar.
And Martin Vesey was involved, but also a friend of yours, Michael Lytle.
Yeah, Michael was still there. I met him, and he and I played a lot of duets together. Tons of us out there. Lytle Cartwright. And, you know, it took some phone calls, and he agreed to do the recording, to be the main recording engineer. And Martin helped, and I think it just sounds fantastic.
Yeah, right. And this particular lineup of Curlew, after you do this recording, how long does this lineup stay together, and what kind of touring did you do, if any?
We mainly played around New York City. We played at Maxwell's in Hoboken. You know, I don't know. I don't have timelines for these things, to tell you the truth. I don't
Right.
know exactly. But we played at CBGB's. I'm sure we played other places if they were there to play. I know we played one gig at over down in Western Soho. There was a club called TR3. I don't know anything about it. I think Bill got the gig. When we played, and Nicky had a bandoneon player come and play, a Greek guy. And there was another band, Rashad Ali's band, that had Sonny Sharrock in the band.
Ah,
That was great. It was great. I found
yes. So around this time, Sonny Sharrock was also playing with Laswell in Material. Did you ever see Material live?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
Played with them a couple of times too. They had a gig at Berlin Jazz Festival. I played in that with Billy Bang and Sonny Sharrock. And a couple of gigs in London at big nightclubs.
Yeah. So you recorded in '81. It's released in '84. Curlew's playing around New York mostly, and then Laswell's playing in other bands he's got going on. Were you playing in other people's bands as well? I would imagine there was a lot of cross-pollination going on at this time.
Yeah, I think the bee didn't land on me.
Okay. So you were strictly Curlew.
Pretty much. I mean, I had a job, and I was also doing a lot of improvised gigs.
Right.
I saw it kind of as a split. You know, I wanted Curlew to be kind of my danceable jazz sort of rock band, like post dancing in your head.
I see. Uh-huh.
These things, people could pat their foot to it. And it was never anything where odd meters that, you know, some prog rock bands do these odd meters, and you know when they change, and then they change, and then they change. I don't think Curlew really ever did that. I think the whole rhythm of the whole thing was always never gave itself away. It was mostly in 4/4, but
Sure.
not always. I think it was pretty subtle.
So there was one other project that I know Laswell got you involved in around this time that included Ornette Coleman, and then, and I've heard about this project called White House.
Yep,
Can you tell me anything about that?
I can tell you what I know.
All right.
Bill called me and he said, "Listen, man, I'm doing this thing with Ornette Coleman, and he's going to call you." And I thought, right. And then Ornette called up and said, "Hey, man, I'm doing this thing, and it's going to be the record companies are screwing me, and I think that if I have a band of all white musicians, I can make a lot more money playing my music." I thought, well, okay, I'm up for that. Always would practice, and when I practice, I would think, what if Charles Mingus called me, you know, to play with him? So this was my Charles Mingus phone call.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right.
I thought, yeah, I'm ready to go, you know, let's do this. And I went over and we rehearsed, and I'm sitting there in the chair with his music in front of me playing, and then he sits down by me with his alto, and he says, "Yeah, play it more like this, George." And he played it, and we were playing it together. All the time, I'm thinking, I'm sitting by Ornette Coleman. He's right here on my left or right, wherever he was. And I'm thinking, man, this is cool. I'm playing alto with the ornette. I don't know anybody that ever did that.
Had you ever met Ornette before?
No.
Huh.
Nope.
Do you know whatever became of this project?
I do. Well, it ended up, he moved away from that, and he had a girlfriend at the time named Roberta Baum, who was a fabulous singer. And Ornette wrote the music for her to sing, his music, her words. And the band changed to Jamaluddin Takuna, and I think Fred Marr may have played drums.
Really?
And we played at the Public Theater. We played, and Blood Almer played.
Oh,
And we had that was a really good band.
uh-huh.
And one day we came to rehearse, and there was a big truck outside Ornette's studio. He had lived in a loft, like on the fourth or fifth floor at Houston and Bowery,
Uh-huh.
the southeast corner. And I went in, and all this recording equipment was set up from Columbia or Sony, and he was going to record these two songs by Roberta. And they were fabulous. This is Creation, is the one I've seen on the internet over the past years. And we recorded them. Sounded really good, and then it kind of, I don't know what happened with what, it just seemed to dissolve.
Right.
He may have had other people. I think Tom Varner went to some rehearsals with him.
Right.
His house, but I just kind of slipped out of it somehow.
So Curlew would go on to do have more incarnations and release more records. You would establish a relationship with Cuneiform Records and released some stuff there. What can you tell us about the evolution of Curlew?
Well, the rule of thumb I had was if someone left Curlew, then I didn't want to get someone to replace that person in how they played. I wanted to get that person. I mean, they had to play the instrument, but for instance, Wayne Horvitz played some with Curlew. We did a tour in Europe, toured around here, and Wayne played keyboard bass, of all things. And he got out of the band, and he said, man, you should use Ann Rupel. He was playing bass in V Effect. And I thought, I knew Ann, and I called her and I said, this band Curlew, would you like to take Wayne's place and play bass? And she said, oh, yeah. And she came over, and she and I ran through some of the music in my apartment at the time. And she said, I don't know how to improvise. And I said, you may as well go on and learn how between now and Saturday. This, I don't know, figured out. Ann's very smart. She was from Wisconsin. She went to a major in music, a singer, and just a very, very, very talented, all the way around musician. And fun to be around and play her ass off. So I found somebody that would change the band and send it in a different direction.
Right. So during these Curlew years, are you in New York City for that entire time? Yeah.
No, I'm not. Actually, in 1992, I married my wife, Ann Elias, who's an artist, and we had our baby around 1991 or 92. And we decided to leave New York City, and we moved to Memphis.
Uh-huh.
We did recording there, recorded some solo recordings for Cuneiform.
Uh-huh.
1999, we moved to Minnesota, and I did 2 other Curlew recordings. And, you know, I had one come out on cuneiform about every 2 years or so.
Right.
Would ask me, how did that happen? I mean, how did these things happen? I don't remember. I don't know. If Steve said, hey, George, do you have, or I said, Steve, you know, I'd like to make a new Curlew record and blah, blah, blah. And I'd send him the music. It seemed very easy and casual.
Huh.
You had David Williams in the band, there's Cochran, there's Challoner, so Sam Bennett for a minute.
Right. So eventually you're now in St. Paul, Minnesota. When did you relocate there?
Well, 1999.
99. Okay.
Son was going between kindergarten and first grade.
Uh-huh.
Dad's a family here, and her dad wasn't doing so well, and so we just thought we'd move up here, be around her dad and her family, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
Dad died somewhere in the middle of that, but
So you were telling me about this group of musicians in St. Paul that have this space called Zeitgeist.
right.
Tell us a little bit about Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist is a new music group run by Heather Behringer, and they've been around for, I don't know, 20 years, longer than I've been here, I think.
Uh-huh.
You know, late 20th century, early 21st century. Is this the 21st century?
Yeah.
Centuries. It's hard to keep up. And they play old new music and new music. They do concert series, and they bring all kind of people into play. There was a while back they did a whole week of George Cartwright,
Oh yeah.
and people write music for them. And I played there a couple of times, and I have a group here called Smashing Park with Heather and Michelle Kinney and Dabu Seru and Josh Gronowski and other people that I'll think of in a minute. And it's kind of a zeitgeisty, that's a little flavor of that. They play anything. 2 percussionists, a pianist, and a reed player. That's their group. They play anything.
Yeah. And recently you were involved with Zeitgeist performing a piece by Frederick Shevsky. And you sent me a link to a video of that piece, which I thought was really nice. That it looked fantastic. I'll put up a link to it on the when I post this. Let me show you the. I got a picture of that gig. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what was going on with this piece.
Well, I wish I had the piece in front of me. It was 5 printed pages of instructions from Frederick Shevsky discussing you're supposed, first you leave your cliches or tricks or things you really like to do. They're not tricks or cliches, they're music, but the things you're used to doing in an improvised setting, you leave them at the door. And you start very quietly and try to stay quietly. It's a lot of people to keep quiet. I mean, this was a very live room. This is not Zeitgeist room. This is the same floor that Zeitgeist has its studio. And this small performance space belongs to a new music group, old music group. So they need resonance. They need, you know, they're playing the sackbut or whatever, old viols and stuff. They need, so that we had to fight with that. Zeitgeist's performance space the sound is fabulous. They had it worked on. It just, you didn't even think about the sound. You just.
Well, this was a really nice looking room on the video, and I should say that the video was shot with multiple cameras simultaneously, and the cameras were all moving. And so you're seeing different musicians in different shots, which you can kind of get a feeling for on this still image. And I was looking for you, while the images are moving around, and I wasn't seeing a sax player, and that's because you weren't playing sax. You were playing guitar, and I didn't know you played guitar. Tell us a little bit about your guitar playing.
Yeah, I started back. I've always played the guitar, but I have about 3 years ago. You play the saxophone and you play a melody or you play a solo, and then there are times you just have to stop playing. It's not conducive to making good music, or it's time to lay out. You don't play right now. And I started playing the guitar because I started imagining different things I could do with a guitar, electric or acoustic. And it's just a different way to play, and I really, really like it.
Can we hear any of your guitar playing on any released recordings?
Well, I'll play some now if you want.
Well, I would like to be able to point some people. Anyway, I'll point people to the Zeitgeist video for sure. And you do play guitar on that, and the camera did actually pan close by you a few times.
I should over. Hey man, what about me?
Right. But we've covered a lot of territory here, George, and I thank you very much for sharing all these stories and your time with me. Anything coming up in your music world that you want people to know about?
Well, I just had a release of all things. It's not my release. It's for a while there, I played with a bass player here named Josh Gronowski, who I very much like. And I played for a while with Dave King. Dave and I called Dave, and we played at the University of Minnesota radio station, KFAI. And then we started playing together with Josh, and it was we all really liked it. And we recorded a concert at JS Central here. And then Josh had a friend who has a recording studio, and we recorded some in the recording studio, in his studio. And it just I really, really, really liked it. And two of the pieces on this release are me playing guitar. It's you can download the whole thing and it doesn't matter, but you can also buy, it's a double CD. And it's put out by Makahala Records in Hot Springs, Arkansas, of all things. And I think it's really, really good. And the two songs I play guitar on, you can hear that in the middle of it somewhere. I forget which ones they are. And I have guitar playing in other places, but that's it's a little more subtle there. But maybe I'll put some up somewhere. Solo.
Yeah, I'll get that information from you, and I'll post it in the video. Thank you very much, George, once again, and hopefully this COVID thing will be over soon, and you can be back playing live more. I'd really enjoy seeing you once. Do you ever get out to the West Coast?
I've been out there in a long time.
Yeah. Yes.
And this summer, I think he's going to release some live Curlew gigs. One of them is from San Francisco.
Oh.
I believe that's one of them. So that'll be good, And we also have another recording coming out on Makahala. It's not none of these are my recordings,
Right.
That'll come along that we did here.
Yeah.
So.
All right, George. Well, thanks again. Really enjoyed talking with you. I hope we can actually meet in person sometime. That would be great. I would enjoy that.
Love it. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Sure.